Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Muhammad Hassan Shafiq, and today we will continue the Unit 16 Support and Movement. Welcome you all to this ICB online program for grade 12 biology, and we will talk about the structure of skeletal muscles and their antagonistic arrangement today. This topic is very important from an examination point of view, so I really want you to listen to today's lecture very carefully, as a lot of questions regarding skeletal muscles and their structure are asked in the board examinations. So moving on to the first slide today, we have already talked about the general view of muscles. There are three types: the skeletal, smooth, and the cardiac muscles. The structure of skeletal muscles is very important in this aspect that these muscles are directly attached to the bone, so they bring about movement not only of body parts but also of the whole body. So their structure and their contraction and how they bring about movements is very important. As far as these skeletal muscles are concerned, they are also striated muscles, as definite light and dark regions are seen under a microscope. Skeletal muscles are huge cells. They are composed of muscle fibers or muscle cells. Whether they should be called cells or not is a bit debatable, as they have many nuclei. So they are multinucleate, but they are definitely cells since they have a proper cytoplasm, a nucleus, and a membrane bounding the cell. So these muscle fiber or muscle cells are cylindrical cells enclosed by a plasma membrane called the sarcolemma, and they have several nuclei. The sarcolemma of muscle fiber penetrates deep into the cell to form a hollow elongated tube, the transverse tubule, also called the T-tubule. And within the muscle fibers are numerous thin myofibrils. So within the muscle fibers are also thin myofibrils which possess characteristic light and dark bands, also called cross striations. Now regarding the covering of a muscle, each muscle is, I'm reading the pink box now, which is extra reading material. You should also be knowing this since it's regarding the muscles and it's very important from an informative point of view as well. Externally, the muscle is covered in a connective tissue wrapping called the epimysium. So the muscle is wrapped around a connective tissue called the epimysium. Each skeletal muscle consists of hundreds and thousands of muscle fibers. Each muscle is divided into discrete bundles of muscle cells called fascicles, surrounded by perimysium, and each muscle fiber within the fascicle is surrounded with a connective tissue layer called the endomysium. So moving on to the next slide, diagrammatically you can see these coverings, as you can see from moving from top to bottom. You see a muscle, it is attached to a bone by means of a tendon. These muscles are composed of muscle fibers, right, and the muscle fibers are covered with epimysium. The muscles are covered with epimysium, which consists of muscle fibers, which consists of lots of fascicles. These fascicles are surrounded with perimysium, and within these are numerous myofibrils, which are then covered by the collectively they are covered with within a or wrapped within a connective tissue layer called the epimysium. So the structure and these striations on a myofibril is very important. Let's talk about this in a bit more detail. So as you can see from this diagram, we have a dark zone, which in this case I will call a thick band or an A band or a thick region, as it consists of contractile units called myosin, which are thick. As you can see on this diagram, these broad blue regions which constitute the A band, and they are on the left and right surrounded with thin filaments or I bands. So we have two kinds of bands, the A bands and the I bands. The A bands are surrounded within the A band has a central line called the M line, whereas the central line on the I band is called the Z line. On the borders, you can see that there are certain regions of myosin overlapping with the actin. The region of A band, excluding those regions or the regions in which no overlapping is seen, is called the H zone. H for hele, which means bright. We'll talk about this when we'll come to the coming slides. As far as the I band is concerned, the central line is called the Z line. Z for Zwischenscheibe, which means the central line. So if you can see, the distance between two successive Z lines is called a sarcomere, which is the contractile unit of a myofibril. So it is a contractile unit, and looking at this sarcomere will give you a very good understanding about the contraction of a whole muscle. So from a working point of view, the structure of a or the working of a sarcomere is very important. So let me just revise this again. Inside a myofibril, we have alternate light and dark bands, which is why these muscles are also called striated muscles. And these bands constitute the A bands and the I bands. The A bands are the dark zones, which consist of myosin. The I bands are the lighter zones, which are which the main contractile unit is the actin. We'll talk about tropomyosin, troponin later, but the chief protein is actin here. Within the A band, the central region is called the M line. Within the I band, the central region is called the Z line. Successive distances between two Z lines gives you a sarcomere, which is the contractile unit of a myofibril. When the muscle contracts, the Z lines come closer to each other and the H zone ultimately disappears. The I band does not actually move, it remains there and actually drags the actin filaments by means of certain binding sites towards the center of sarcomere. Okay. Now moving on, I think this was good enough a description for a diagram. We'll now talk about this, that how this is represented in your book. The myofibrils are 1 to 2 micrometer in diameter that run in a parallel fashion and extend the entire length of the cell. Each myofibril is composed of two major types of myofilaments or microfilaments, actin and myosin. The cytoplasm of the myofibril is called the sarcoplasm and contains sarcoplasmic reticulum. Muscle fibers range from 1 millimeter to about 4 centimeter in length and form 10 to 100 micrometer in diameter. So the muscle fibers are actually from 10 to 100 micrometer in diameter, and the lengthwise they are also quite large, ranging from 0.1 centimeter or 1 millimeter to about 4 centimeters. All the muscle fibers in a given muscle have the same dimensions. Bundles of muscle fibers are enclosed by collagen fibers and connective tissue. At the end of the muscle, the connective tissue forms tendons which attaches a muscle to a bone and is inelastic. Contrary to the tendon, the other major connective tissue here is the ligament, which connects to bone to a bone. It brings about movement and is elastic. Anyways, when you look at these striations under an electron microscope, we see definite patterns of light and dark regions called the light and dark bands. As I have already told you that the light bands constitute the I bands and the dark bands constitute the A bands, also called the dark lines. Electron microscopy also indicates that these bands are due to the regular arrangement of thick and thin. Between two thick is a thin, and between two thin is a thick filament. In the traversing the central line of a I band is the Z line, which means Zwischenscheibe, which means between discs, and the section of myofibril between two Z lines is called a sarcomere, which is a ultimate functional contractile unit. From the Z line, actin filaments extend in both directions, whilst in the center of the sarcomere are found the myosin filaments. So if you look at a sarcomere, it has a central region called the A band, and on the left and right you can see half of the I bands, because it is only the distance between the from the terminal region to the central line, which is the Z line in either case. So you have a kind of two I bands, partially two I bands, and one major complete A band. The A band is consisting of myosin, which has binding sites for actin, and using ATP it can drag these actins towards the center of the sarcomere, which is how a muscle contracts. Moving on, like I was talking about how these myosin heads, myosin is a globular protein. It is composed of a linear tail with two globular heads. These heads have binding site for actin, and once these binding sites are exposed on the thin filaments or actin, they can actually bind, and using ATP can drag them over themselves. Or in other words, I can say that the cross bridges will be formed. We'll talk about this in a little while. Okay, moving on, ultrastructure of skeletal muscles. In certain regions of the sarcomere, actin and myosin filaments overlap. When I was showing you the diagram, we saw that certain regions of A and I bands overlap each other. Transverse sections in these regions indicate, if you look at the TS or transverse section, you will see that each myosin is actually surrounded by 6 actin filaments. The arrangement of actin and myosin filaments results in a number of other bands being recognizable in the sarcomere. So when you transversely look at this diagram, you will see a myosin surrounded with 6 actin filaments, and their pattern and binding will give you an indication of other bands as well, or you'll be able to recognize other bands as well, apart from the A and I band. The myosin and actin filaments constitute the A band because they are anisotropic and can polarize visible light. Actin filaments alone constitute the I band, which are isotropic or polarizing. So their names of A and I comes from their behavior towards light, in a way that A band or the myosin proteins can polarize visible light. They are anisotropic, while the I bands are isotropic ones. The center of the A band is lighter than the other regions in a relaxed sarcomere, as you see no overlapping between actin and myosin, and this region is called the H zone, which means helle for bright. So let's read this material as well. Each myosin molecule consists of 6 polypeptides, which are arranged in such a way that each myosin molecule possesses a tail, like you can see the tail, and 2 globular heads. Each thick filament consists of about 300 myosin molecules bundled together, with their tails forming the central part of the thick filament and their heads facing outward in the opposite directions at each end. So imagine the myosin molecules, 300 of them in an A band, are arranged in such a way that their tails are facing inwards towards each other, while their heads protruding outwards on the terminal regions in opposite directions. The kidney-shaped polypeptide subunits of actin, called globular actin or G-actin, bear the active sites to which the myosin heads attach during contraction. So when a muscle contracts and the actin binds to, and the myosin binds to an actin, it is actually the G-actin also, which means the globular actin, and this kidney-shaped polypeptide contains or bears the active sites to which the myosin will bind. While in a relaxed state, these sites are usually covered. G-actin monomers are polymerized into long actin filaments called fibrous or F-actin. The backbone of each thin filament appears to be formed by 2 intertwined actin filaments that look like a twisted double strand of pearls. So regarding the myosin structure, it's pretty clear that the tails and heads are arranged in such a way that the heads will bind to the actin, particularly the G-actin, which bears the sites for the myosin heads to attach during contraction. These monomers of G-actin can polymerize into long filaments called the F-actin. So we are actually looking at 2 kinds of actin here, the G-actin, which is the simpler monomers, and the F-actin, which is the polymerized form of these monomers. If you want to look at an I band in a bit more detail structurally, it has 2 other major protein components as well, in the name of tropomyosin and troponin, and how these regulate muscle contraction will be talked about in a while. Now, moving on, the central region of the A band is the H zone. I've already talked about this. The H zone is bisected by a dark line called the M line. So, the M line actually joins the adjacent myosin filaments together at a point halfway along their length. So, we can say that the M line actually aligns the myosin filaments in a way that we can see that how these filaments are arranged halfway across their length, uh, looking at the alignment of the M line in the A band. Thick filaments are comprise myosin. They are 60 nanometer in diameter, and myosin is the chief protein. In the case of actin, thin filaments, the chief protein is actin, and the diameter is almost half to that of the thick filament. Now comes the other proteins in the I band or thin filaments which I wanted to talk about. They are tropomyosin and troponin. Two strands of tropomyosin spiral around the actin core and help stiffen it. So besides the actin chains, we have two strands of tropomyosin as well, which coil around the actin and help stiffen it. In a relaxed muscle fiber, they block myosin binding sites on actin so that the myosin cannot bind. Okay, because we don't need a contraction in a relaxed muscle. So tropomyosin covers the G actin sites on the thin filaments to which myosin cannot bind. The other protein is a 3 polypeptide complex called troponin. One of these is the TNI, the TNT, and the third one is TNC. TNI is a polypeptide which is an inhibitory subunit that binds to actin. So the TNI is an inhibitory subunit that binds to actin. TNT binds to tropomyosin and helps position it on actin. Okay, so TNI जो है वो एक्टिन को बाइंड करती है and it's an inhibitory subunit. TNT binds and positions it on actin. The third one is sensitive to calcium ions. It's the TNC. Both troponin and tropomyosin help control the myosin-actin interactions involved in muscle contraction. So muscle contraction sliding filament model is one of the best models which explains a muscle contraction, and let's see how it explains. The sliding filament theory of contraction states that during contraction the thin filaments and the thick filaments overlap to a greater degree. In a relaxed muscle they are quite apart from each other and are usually overlapping only at the ends. Like the ends of the A band will be occupying the terminal regions or covering the terminal regions of the I band. Similarly, the I band terminal regions will be covering the A band, but they will not be attached to each other. Like they will be on top, but they will not be like properly bound by any means. But when we do know that how a stimulus results in a muscle contraction and how movement takes place by the involvement of neurons, particularly it's the motor neuron which carries the impulse towards the effector, which is usually a muscle, and it shows its response by contraction. So when these muscle fibers are stimulated by the nervous system, the myosin heads are attached onto the myosin binding sites on actin in the thin filaments. So G actin के ऊपर जो binding sites थी myosin की, they will like the myosin will now bind and the sliding begins. These links are called cross bridges, which are formed and broken several times during a contraction. So it's not a single step process, it will keep on happening again and again. What I mean by this is that the myosin heads will attach to the actin and drag them on top of each other, then they will break the bond and again bind to somewhere else on the I band and keep dragging itself again and again, so that it can be pushed further and further towards the center. This is acting like a tiny ratchet to generate tension and propel the thin filaments towards the center of the M line or the sarcomere. As these events occur simultaneously in sarcomere throughout the cell, the muscle cell obviously will shorten, the I bands reduce in length. Like as the Z lines are coming close to each other, the distance between the successive Z lines or Z is removed. The H zone in a fully contracted state will entirely disappear, and the contiguous A bands move closer together but do not change in length. The A bands do come closer to each other, but they on the whole do not change their length. Like it's the I bands which are completely covering the A band, but the A bands will more likely stay in their original position and will not too much change in length. Control of cross bridges. Now, how is this controlled? Obviously it's an energy requiring active process, so ATP will be hydrolyzed, but how is it controlled? It is initiated by the nerve impulse arriving at the neuromuscular junction. Now, what is this neuromuscular junction? This neuromuscular junction, as we know that the impulse moves from one neuron to the other in the form of synapse. Now, neuromuscular junction is at the end of a reflex arc, which indicates the last junction between the neuron and the muscle in this case. The nerve impulse is carried through the sarcolemma to the T-tubule, then into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. The calcium gates of the sarcoplasmic reticulum open, releasing calcium ions into the cytosol. When muscle is at rest, the tropomyosin is disposed in such a way that it covers the sites on the actin chain, where the heads of myosin become attached. When muscle is required to contract, calcium ions bind with the troponin molecules and cause them to move slightly. This has the effect of displacing the tropomyosin and exposing the binding sites for the myosin head. Once the myosin head has become attached to the actin filament, ATP is hydrolyzed into ADP and inorganic phosphate, and the cross bridges are broken down. So ATP will be hydrolyzed once the myosin head has become attached to the actin filament, and it will break the bridge between the actin and myosin. The formation and breakdown of cross bridges occurs again and again during the sliding of the filament. अब हो क्या रहा है, if I try to tell this in a very simple language, एक्टिन और मायोसिन आपस में दूसरे को कवर कर रहे हैं टर्मिनल पॉइंट्स पे, और जो मायोसिन है ना उसका हेड जो है वो एक्टिन पे बाइंड नहीं कर पा रहा, क्योंकि एक्टिन के ऊपर जो इसकी साइट है दैट इज़ कवर्ड विद ट्रोपोमायोसिन, और ट्रोपोमायोसिन के ऊपर जो है ना वो और एक इनहिबिटरी सब यूनिट भी है जो कि मायोसिन को बाइंड होने नहीं देगा. जब इम्पल्स पहुंचेगी न्यूरोमस्कुलर जंक्शन पे और वो फिर इम्पल्स जाएगी टी ट्यूब्यूल से होती हुई इनटू द सार्कोप्लाज्मिक रेटिकुलम. सार्कोप्लाज्मिक रेटिकुलम जब इस इम्पल्स के अगेंस्ट सेंसिटाइज होगा तो कैल्शियम आयन रिलीज करेगा. टीएनसी जो ट्रोपोनिन सी कॉम्प्लेक्स था पॉलीपेप्टाइड का, वो बाइंड करेगा, ट्रोपोमायोसिन को डिस्प्लेस करेगा. ट्रोपोमायोसिन जब डिस्प्लेस होगी, क्योंकि ट्रोपोनिन जब बाइंड करेगा तो थोड़ी सी शेप चेंज होगी, जिससे थोड़ी सी ट्रोपोमायोसिन हिलेगी जो कि टीएनसी के साथ अटैच थी, और फिर जो है ना वो जब ट्रोपोमायोसिन थोड़ी सी हटेगी या डिस्प्लेस होगी तो वो इन डिस्प्लेस होते हुए उन साइट्स को एक्सपोज कर देगी जिस पर मायोसिन ने बाइंड करना था. तो एक दफ़ा ये मायोसिन अटैच हो गई तो फिर ये जो है ना ड्रैग करेगी एक्टिन को टुवर्ड्स द सेंटर, और फिर जब उसको तोड़ना चाहेगी उस लिंक को, क्योंकि क्रॉस ब्रिज एक परमानेंट फीचर नहीं है मसल का, बल्कि ये बार बार बनता और टूटता है जैसा कि ये लिखा हुआ भी है. तो हर दफ़ा जब उस क्रॉस ब्रिज को तोड़ना होगा एक्टिन और मायोसिन के, तो एटीपी हाइड्रोलाइज होगा, और ये प्रोसेस जो है ये कई दफ़ा होगा, बार बार होगा. नाउ दिस इज़ अ स्लाइडिंग फिलामेंट मॉडल ऑफ मसल कॉन्ट्रैक्शन. इसमें डायग्रामेटिकली आपको बहुत अच्छी तरह नज़र आ रहा है कि 3 फेजेस मसल की शो कर रही हैं. लेफ्ट पे मेंशन भी है the relaxed phase, the partially contracted phase and the fully contracted phase. तो आप देख सकते हैं कि जैसे जैसे मसल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो रहा है फ्रॉम अ रिलैक्स स्टेट, एच जोन जो है ना वो ऐसा ऐसा कम होता जा रहा है, और आई बैंड्स की जो जी लाइंस है वो आपस में दूसरे के करीब आती जा रही हैं. ए बैंड जो है वो उसी तरह से है, उसकी लेंथ मोर और लेस सेम है, लेकिन जो डिग्री ऑफ ओवरलैपिंग है वो हर कॉन्ट्रैक्टेड फेज़ के साथ ज़्यादा होती जा रही है एक्टिन की मायोसिन के साथ. और ये क्यों हो रही है? ड्यू टू दोज क्रॉस ब्रिजेस विच आर फॉर्म्ड बिटवीन द हेड्स ऑफ द मायोसिन एंड द बाइंडिंग साइड्स ऑफ दीज हेड्स ऑन द आई बैंड और ऑन द एक्टिन फिलामेंट. एंटागनिस्टिक अरेंजमेंट आप जानते हैं मसल्स हमेशा पेयर्स में काम करते हैं। जब एक मसल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करेगा तो उसका जो काउंटर पार्ट है वो रिलैक्स होगा। लिगामेंट के बारे में मैंने थोड़ा सा बताया कि these are the tissues which connect bones to bones and are elastic. When a muscle contracts, one end normally remains stationary and the other end is drawn towards it. जो स्टेशनरी रहता है that is the origin and the one which is drawn or moves towards it is called the insertion. बोथ आर द पॉइंट ऑफ अटैचमेंट टू बोन्स। हर मसल का अपना ओरिजिन और इंसर्शन होता है। ओरिजिन जो है ना वो एंड होता है मसल का जो कि स्टेशनरी रहता है, और जो उसकी तरफ मूव करता है दैट इज़ द इंसर्शन। ओरिजिन और इंसर्शन के दरमियान जो थिक पार्ट है जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करता है दैट इज़ द बेली। नॉर्मली द बोन्स ऑफ इंसर्शन आर पुल्ड अपॉन व्हेन मसल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स एंड ड्रॉन टुवर्ड्स ओरिजिन। जब एक मसल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करता है तो नॉर्मली जो इंसर्शन है ना वो पुल होकर ओरिजिन की तरफ ड्रॉ होता है, वन बोन मूविंग ऑन दी अदर इन एट द जॉइंट्स। फ्लेक्सर मसल जो है वो मसल को बेंड करता है। एक्सटेंसर मसल एक्सटेंड्स द आर्म, इसी वजह से उसको एक्सटेंसर कहते हैं। लाइक इन द केस ऑफ फोरलिम्ब इट इज अ ट्राइसेप व्हिच एक्सटेंड्स द आर्म व्हेन इट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स एंड इट रिलैक्सेस व्हेन इट इज बेंट। Bicep obviously works antagonistically, so triceps and biceps are on the forelimb are a perfect example of antagonistic arrangement of these skeletal muscles. For the movement of the bone in two directions, muscles always work in pairs. When one contracts, the other will definitely relax, and vice versa. Such arrangement of muscles is called antagonistic arrangement. नी जॉइंट में मूवमेंट कैसे होती है? नी या टिबियोफिमोरल जॉइंट ये फीमर और टिबिया के दरमियान है। इट इज़ अ कॉम्प्लेक्स हिंज जॉइंट जो एंड परमिट्स रोलिंग एंड ग्लाइडिंग मूवमेंट्स इन एडिशन टू फ्लेक्शन एंड एक्सटेंशन। यानी इसमें रोलिंग और ग्लाइडिंग मोटिलिटी भी नज़र आती है अपार्ट फ्रॉम एक्सटेंशन एंड फ्लेक्शन। The flexion is carried out by the flexor muscles. These are hamstring muscles present at the back of the upper part of the thigh. तो फ्लेक्शन जो है ना दैट इज़ कैरिड बाय द फ्लेक्सर मसल्स, और जो मेजर हैमस्ट्रिंग मसल्स हैं प्रेजेंट एट द बैक ऑफ द लेग दीज आर द बाइसेप्स फीमोरिस। डायग्रामेटिकली स्लाइडिंग फिलामेंट मॉडल आप देख सकते हैं। ये मायोसिन का हेड है। पार्ट ए में एटीपी को यूज़ करता हुआ जो है ना वो ब्रिज को तोड़ेगा जो इन दोनों के दरमियान बनेगा। जब वो कैल्शियम आइंस बाइंड करेंगे ट्रोपोनिन को तो ट्रोपोमाइसिन डिस्प्लेस होगी, माइसिन का हेड बाइंड करेगा और वो ड्रैग करेगा। एज लॉन्ग एज कैल्शियम इज बाउंड टू द ट्रोपोनिन दिस ड्रैग और दिस मूवमेंट विल कंटिन्यू टेकिंग प्लेस, because as long as calcium ions are secreted by the sarcoplasmic reticulum, it means that the muscle still needs to be contracted, or it means that an impulse is continuously reaching the neuromuscular junction. New ATP binds to myosin causing detachment of myosin from actin, हाइड्रोलिसिस होगी causing recocking of the myosin head। ठीक है, और ये myosin जो है ना ये दोबारा से अपनी पोजीशन पर वापस आ जाएगा। राइट, मूविंग फॉरवर्ड हम बात कर रहे थे टिबियोफेमोरल जॉइंट की। इट हैज टू रीजन्स, वन फ्रॉम pelvic girdle and other from the top of the femur. At its insertion, the tendon divides into two portions to attach at the upper part of the tibia and the fibula. The extension is carried out by the extensor muscles which are present in front of the thigh. Extension, जो flexion है, that was carried out by the other muscles, but the extension is carried out by the quadriceps femoris. ये इलियम में ओरिजिनेट होते हैं, इलियम और फीमर में, और एक टेंडन के ज़रिए नी कैप को सराउंड करते हुए टिबिया तक जाते हैं। These extend the leg at the knee joint and are important for standing, walking and almost all activities moving involving the legs. तो biceps femoris और quadriceps femoris जो है ना ये basically one at the back at the hamstring and the one at the front. These are they have two origins, one from the pelvic girdle and the other from the top of the femur. They actually originate at the ilium and through a tendon surround the patella, the kneecap and insert at the tibia. तो इलियम और फीमर से ओरिजिनेट होते हुए टेंडन के ज़रिए वो टिबिया पे जाके इंसर्ट हो जाते हैं। नेक्स्ट डायग्रामेटिकली आपको बुक में नज़र आ रहा है कि ये जो मूवमेंट है ये बेसिकली मूवमेंट नी जॉइंट की नहीं है। दीज आर द स्टेप्स इन्वॉल्व इन बोन रिपेयर, जिसको हम पिछले लेक्चर में कवर कर चुके हैं। राइट, नेक्स्ट कम्स द एक्सरसाइज जो है ना वो मैं एक्सपेक्ट करता हूँ कि आप लोग जो है ना वो इसको एक दफ़ा देखें, ख़ुद से करें। मैं चाहता हूँ आप लोग खुद प्रैक्टिस करें। अगर आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो जब मैं ये लेक्चर अपलोड करूँगा तो आप कमेंट सेक्शन में मुझे बता सकते हैं। वी कैन डू दिस टुगेदर। वैसे नेक्स्ट लेक्चर के स्टार्ट में हम इसको एक दफ़ा ज़रूर देख लेंगे, लेकिन अभी मुझे इसलिए नहीं मैं बताना चाह रहा क्योंकि मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप लोगों ने चूँकि इस चैप्टर को ख़त्म किया है तो आप इसकी अच्छी सी एक रिवीजन करते हुए ख़ुद से हल करने की कोशिश करें, जिससे आपके कॉन्सेप्ट्स को क्लियर होने में बहुत हेल्प मिलेगी और आप लोगों के जो कॉन्सेप्ट्स हैं वो मज़ीद स्ट्रेंथ होंगे। तकरीबन 15 MCQs हैं, जैसा कि आपको इन स्लाइड्स में नज़र भी आ रहा है। ठीक है, बहुत इजी स्लाइड्स MCQs हैं, बुक के सेंटर से पूछे हुए हैं मेन टॉपिक्स में से, तो ज़ाहिर है आपको वो टॉपिक्स एक दफ़ा अच्छी तरह गो थ्रू दोबारा करने होंगे। एक्सरसाइज के लिए जो है ना ये इसके भी आंसर सारे के सारे बुक में हैं। ज़ाहिर है बहुत ज़्यादा शॉर्ट क्वेश्चन हैं, 24 इंक्लूडिंग लॉट्स ऑफ short questions in the form of differences, in the form of definitions, descriptions, diagrams। तो बेसिकली अगर आप इस एक्सरसाइज को पूरी तरह एक अच्छी तरह हल कर लेंगे, आप एक पेपर लें और उसको जो है ना उस पर इनके आंसर्स लिखना शुरू करें। आंसर्स के लिए आप ज़ाहिर बुक की हेल्प ले सकते हैं और फिर उनको याद करें। दिस विल इम्प्रूव एंड strengthen your concepts a lot। Right, keep studying biology। I'll join you again in the coming lectures with a new chapter। लेकिन इसके जो है ना हम MCQs ज़रूर देखेंगे। अभी आप जो है ना वो अपने तौर पर इनको हल करने की कोशिश करें। Alright, keep studying biology, stay safe, and I'll join you again inshallah in the next section with a new chapter। Allah Hafiz।